Listen, you ever struggle with finishing your own sketches and taking them to some degree of polish? I feel like we can all relate to that experience of sketching a whole bunch and feeling like your drawings didn't really complete. You didn't take them to the point you wanted to. Or looking at other people's work and going, damn, that looks really polished and really nice for a sketch. You know what I mean? I love drawings that have a sort of expressive, kind of energetic quality to them, but also like a great degree of clarity. But for a long time, and I don't know if you can relate to this experience, when I sit down to draw, I get inspired, I look at that kind of work, and then when I go do my own thing, it just feels like this slow kind of, put a line down, take it back, put a line down, take it back. I end up losing a lot of steam along the way. This skill of finishing our drawings is something that we have to build, and the particular quality of doing so while keeping the energy high and having a lot of fun is something that's taken me a long time to figure out, and I'm just starting to have some breakthroughs on it that in retrospect seem really obvious, so I figured I'd share them right here. So the first concept that I realized has really helped me is realizing that you don't actually have to see the whole image in your head. When you look at people draw, especially on the internet, it's really easy to get the impression that the drawing sort of appears in your head first. You could see the whole thing and then you just kind of spit it out on the page. But what I've actually learned is that, at least for me, that's not at all how it works, and that's totally okay. Oftentimes, when I draw, the very first version of the idea that I put down on the paper is very rudimentary, and even as a drawing, it oftentimes doesn't look very good. And in the past, I used to kind of stop there. I used to kind of go, oh, okay, well, I kind of drew it, and since I didn't have an amazing idea or I didn't have an incredible line quality to it, I guess that's all I can do with this drawing. Time to start over, right? But in reality, as I've kept going over the years, I began to really understand that drawing is a form of thinking, okay? That very first version of the drawing is sort of like the first iteration of the thought, okay? And while I think that sounds really obvious to most people, and it sounded obvious to me, I think I had a really hard time understanding that you have to work the same idea over and over in multiple iterations before it actually turns into something that's worth, looking at, that you're really proud of. So keeping in mind that I don't have to see the whole drawing in my head, that I don't have to have the whole design figured out when I start, has been really helpful because it has kind of given me permission to work in passes. Which leads me into the second idea that I want to share with you, which is that we should work in multiple passes. If I show you this drawing that I have here, you would probably never guess that this was actually the very first iteration of it, okay? And the original version of the drawing almost doesn't even have anything in common with where I ended up. But instead of waiting to have that perfect idea appear in my head and just kind of manifest in a way that I could just draw in one shot, what I've found is actually helpful is to just put down the dumbest, silliest little version of the doodle and then just working in passes that go from very broad specific aspects of the idea to very tight and specific ones without losing momentum. For me, that usually looks like having three main passes, or basically three versions of the drawing. The first version of the drawing is literally just the idea. I'm not thinking about, what looks awesome or what looks cool. I'm literally just trying to figure out what's floating about inside my head. So in this first version, I didn't even retain any sense of design. It was just like, okay, it's a head from this angle. And then on the second pass, I'll try to focus on ironing out all the design details about it. Now that I have an idea, let me just push any qualities that I love about it, that I really want to make awesome. Just kind of do the part that's a little bit more technical. And once you're satisfied with that phase, or once I'm satisfied with that phase, then I'll move it into that third phase of sort of inking or committing it to stone, if you will. It's kind of like there's no more takebacks. I don't have to think anymore about what it is that I was trying to say with the drawing. I can just use the ink or the markers or the colors to just emphasize the things that I think were really cool. So working in passes, everybody knows this, but doing so in a way that first makes sense to you, and second, allows you to focus on one sort of big concept at a time. For me, it's what's the idea, what are the design details and forms, and then lastly, how do I want the line weight to go? When I work in this way, what I find that does is it liberates me, and I don't have to do as many takebacks. I'm not going like, oh, is this the right line? Is this the right line? Oh, it doesn't feel good. Look, I know this is super obvious, and like most artists out there already do this. I know I've been trying to do this for a long time, but for whatever reason, lately it has clicked way more than other times. And so I just want to emphasize that you don't have to have the whole idea in your head. You don't have to have seen it all before you put it down on paper, like, you know, those really cool videos of masters that are just kind of inking straight up from their brain. They're impressive, but they come from just hundreds of thousands of hours of building a visual library. And just because you haven't done that doesn't mean that you can't have fun and keep working on your sketching, right? And so that brings me into the third and final idea that I want to share with you, which is instead of even focusing on whether you like what you see on the page, I've found that it really helps me to focus on energy and momentum. Just like in order to finish more drawings, we have to have more fun. There's no way to do something for thousands and thousands of hours if it's just a slog and you hate it and you have no fun, you know? So for me, what I do is I try to literally focus on the feeling of the pencil or the brush on the surface, like literally drawing with energy, not just imitating the energy, if that makes sense. So when you put it all together, I feel like these three ideas have made a huge difference for how I draw and how I sketch. Before, I used to just get demotivated really easily. I would draw something and I would be like, I guess my mental library is not that good, so like, whatever. But now, working in this way has really helped me just have more fun and be a little more relaxed and be a little less judgmental, because at the end of the day, I'm not judging the drawing as it's coming out of my hand. I'm kind of taking a bigger picture approach and just trying to get through the phases before I step back and I look at it as like a completed piece. And so if you struggle with that kind of thing, I hope that helps somebody out there. This is the kind of thing I do in my channel, just kind of chronicling my art adventures and sharing what I learn right as I go. So I would love it if you sub to my channel. I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.